All right, good afternoon, class. Today we are going to learn about the writing process. I know some of you guys learned about the writing process a little bit at the end of third grade, but now that we're fourth graders, we're going to dig deeper into the writing process and really learn how to become better writers. So, before we get started, I'm going to hand out your writing process packet. And each one will have a picture and the description of each step that we're learning about, so you can look at it if you're a little confused when I'm talking about it or when we're learning about it right now. So here's this. Okay,
Thank you.
so the first step in the writing process is pre-writing. Does anyone know what pre-writing is? Do you know what pre-writing is? No? Okay, you're a little unsure. That's okay. So pre-writing is when we brainstorm our ideas to be able to write our story or answer a question. So when we brainstorm, we just jot down some ideas. We think of phrases, things that help us answer the question or write what we're supposed to write about. So I know a lot of you guys have brainstormed before. So we're going to do a quick activity. Up on the board is a thing. The question is, what makes you a good friend? So I'm going to have some of you guys come up and just write down some answers. We're going to brainstorm some ideas to answer this question. So do you want to come up and write something on the board? Good job. Okay. Anyone else? You want to come up? Okay, come on up. Okay. Very good. Okay, so we have a few students that wrote down some ideas on how to be a good friend. We have right here, it says to be a good listener. That is definitely one. And then someone else drew a picture, which is very interesting, and it was them and their friend playing together. So playing together and spending time together is another way to be good friends. So that's very important in our brainstorming step, as you can see in your packet, that we don't have to write complete sentences. They can be phrases, they can be pictures. These are ways to get our ideas down. And this will then help us organize and write for our next step, which is drafting. So before we get to drafting, we can use a graphic organizer to take our ideas from our pre-writing and put it into a more organized way. Now, has anyone used a graphic organizer before? You haven't? You have? Okay, what did you use? The chart. Okay, you used a bubble map. All right, those are two great graphic organizers that we can use. So, once we jot down our ideas and we put them in a graphic organizer, we can then be able to draft, which is our next step. Can you guys look at the draft part in our notebook? Draft. Okay, so drafting is when we take our thoughts from our graphic organizer and put them into complete sentences. Now, can anyone answer what a complete sentence is? What's a complete sentence?
A complete sentence has a subject and a verb?
Yes, and it has a capital letter and
and a period or
punctuation. Yes, good job. So this is when we take our ideas and we make sure we write our draft. Now our draft needs to include a topic sentence, which we know how to write, a body with our details to answer or write our story, and then a closing sentence to wrap it all up. And in our graphic organizer that I handed out about the pre-writing, you'll see that in that step. Now, after we draft, what do you think the next step is? Anyone know? Anyone want to share out our answer?
Go through it and change things?
Yes, and that's called revising. So revising is when we read through our papers and make corrections. Corrections as in like, is our paper or our story talking about what it should be talking about? Do we have a topic sentence and a closing sentence? Now, I have an example for us to do together, and then I'll let you guys break into partners and talk about it. So our example is a short story, and we're going to read it together. We're going to read it together, and then we're going to make corrections. So does anyone want to read the first sentence?
Ice cream is the best dessert in the world.
All right. Anyone want to read the next one?
There's chocolate, vanilla, strawberry, so many other awesome flavors.
Keep
I
going.
like sprinkles. I like pizza. You could get sprinkles, fudge, and fruit on your ice cream. There are so many awesome things about ice cream, which is why it is the best dessert.
All right. So when we're revising, you're going to read it on your own. You're going to read your own paper on your own, and you're going to think to yourself, does my paper talk about what it's supposed to talk about? Does it have a topic sentence? Does it have a closing sentence? Now, does anyone think that this writing prompt has a topic sentence? Anyone? You?
The first one.
Yes. The first sentence, right, it tells us that ice cream is the best dessert in the world. So that's what our paper is going to be about. Now, is there anything off topic that does not belong in our writing? Take a look, guys. What do you think?
I like pizza.
I like pizza. Yeah, it does not talk about ice cream. That's totally off topic. Now, last thing, do we have a closing sentence that wraps our whole paper up?
The last sentence.
The last sentence, yes, talks about why ice cream is the best flavor. Why ice cream is the best dessert in the world. It wraps up the paper. So, during this step, you're going to read your writing, and then you're going to exchange with a partner and read each other's and make corrections. Now, I want you to sit with your partner right now and talk about why it's a good idea during this step to work with a partner. All right, I'll give you a few minutes. All right, we're going to come back together. Can anyone tell me why this is a good time to work with a partner to read each other's papers? Yes? Right, it is a good time to read each other's papers because you get to see someone else's point of view. You might miss something that you thought was right, but it might have been wrong. So it's good to have someone else's eyes to look at. So, after our draft, we revise, and now this is a very important part. This is a time that we are going to use an editing checklist called CUPS. Now, I'm going to hand out our CUPS editing checklist so you can look at it as I have mine up on the board. It's the same color coordination so that it's easy to follow, guys. So in our editing step, we're going to switch our papers with our partners again, and we're going to read our paper and look for certain things in this checklist. So CUPS. C stands for capitalization. U stands for understanding. P stands for punctuation, and S stands for spelling. So, what do we mean by this? In capitalization, we need to make sure that we have our first word in our sentence capitalized. If there's proper nouns, we need to make sure that they're capitalized. For you, understanding, we need to look through our sentences and make sure that our sentences make sense. Is my paper on topic? So it's just another way of revising our paper during this step again to make sure that it's good. Then we have P for punctuation. What punctuations can we use? We have periods, comma, question marks. We want to make sure that we're using the right one. And then spelling. That's very important. We want to make sure we have the correct spelling. So if you're unsure, we can use our dictionary apps on our iPads, or if you want to use a dictionary in the classroom. This is a good way to check our spelling. So, Once we use our Ackerman cups, and you guys have an editing checklist that will keep you intact and make sure that you understand what's going on, you will be ready to write your final copy, your draft, to publish. Now, this is when we want to take our time and take in all of our corrections that we made in our paper. We want to talk to our partners, make sure we know that everything is A-okay. And then that's when we take our time, we write very neatly, and we write our final copy to turn in, and then it can be published in our classroom book. So, does anyone have any questions on the writing process? I know it's a lot of information, but we have great handouts that will help along the way that are just like the ones up on the board. So it's very clear to understand, and I'll be here to walk around.